Don't ever miss the opportunity to blame others for mistakes you've made yourself. That's something the British government does better than anyone. Folks, welcome to the channel. And I was reading this from the Daily Mail. Reveal the pernickety passport rules Brits need, caps, to know before the Easter getaway, including EU regulations over issue dates and why travelers should count their blank pages. Yeah, that's what you do when you travel abroad. This is something that apparently is news to a lot of people. And this is closely linked to, of course, Brexit. Now, the anti-EU campaign started years before the vote, mostly because the elite wanted people to vote in a certain way, in which they did. But I think that at this point, very few people will argue that it was, what's that Farage call it? Failure, right? So, yeah. Now, personally, I think it was not a failure. I think that Brexit did exactly what it was supposed to do, which is get the United Kingdom out of the European Union. That it did. Now, a lot of people thought they would have more money because Brussels was somehow stealing it from them, that they would have immigration, capped, and only the people they wanted would immigrate. It actually turns out to be the exact opposite. The people that they probably wanted more to see come into the country, more aligned with their own cultural values, professionals, people that maybe got along better, those saw it as less appealing, and a lot of desperate people from some of the most horrible, impoverished part of the world, those ended up jumping into it. It's just the way it is. I think it was a success in terms of separating one thing from the other. In that way, you don't have any more British MPs in the European Parliament, which always voted or even spearheaded some of the more draconian left-wing politics in the European Union. So I think that in that way, it was very successful. Now, the campaign goes on because the United Kingdom has not been doing great since Brexit, mostly because of this very obvious thing that apparently flew over the head of a lot of people, which is you're no longer part of a group of countries. You're no longer part of a family of nations in which trade and commerce moved fluidly without any restrictions, and yes, including people, which is a thing for some. I mean, I've even seen videos of Brits complaining about them wanting to travel to other European countries as they see fit without any restrictions or control, but them having the say on who is allowed from those same countries into their own. That is insanity. That is, I mean, that's the kind of thing that people with dementia could consider reasonable. But still, it's being blamed on the EU that people need passports. Guys, this is the way it happens with every single country in the world. If you're crossing borders, you do need a passport. It's not the evil EU that is requiring a passport. Every country in the planet, unless you have a very specific agreement, like in the case of the countries that are part of the European Union, you need to show passports when crossing borders. And products need to be controlled. That's to make sure you're not getting anything you're not supposed to across those lines, right? And what's interesting here is some of these rules have been even proposed and done by United Kingdom themselves when they were still part of the European Union. So now they have to respect the laws and regulations they themselves wanted to have in the European Union as a member state. Now that they're no longer a member state out of their own decision, they are angry that they need to abide by them, the rules that they wanted themselves. And it's not really all that crazy. Here's all you need to know from the 10-year rule. Blank page, you need like blank pages in your passport, so as to have the passport marked or stamped or whatever it is. Plus, we included handy tips, saving money on the passport renewals. The passport, that's going to be on your own side. That's exactly what they wanted. Having your own British passports, that's the price that you will have to pay. That's the British government that sets that. As of having a valid passport, yes, Yes, I know this blows some people's minds, but you do need a valid passport when using your passport. Otherwise, it is not generally accepted. If you enter the EU from UK April 1st and return April 5th, you may have passport issues less than 10 years before April 1. 3 months. Yeah, I mean, this is all standard stuff. Way to France, despite checking in for a flight online, making he was stopped. My passport had been issued more than 10 years previously. They were very matter of fact about it. They just said, sorry, you can't board. Off you pop. Yeah. So, yes, you need a valid passport to make sure you aren't caught out. And for future details on EU passport rules, search for documentation you need to travel to Europe. Yeah, it's just the way it is. While most countries such as Australia, Canada, and US just need your passport to be valid for the length of your stay, other countries such as China and Thailand need at least 6 months. As previously mentioned, you will need at least 3 months valid on your passport from the intended day of departure. Again, one of the rules that UK themselves implemented and lobbied towards while being members of the European Union, and now they have to abide by it. Count your blank pages, and yes, as well. And yes, you're using a currency that is no longer anyway. This goes on and on. It just shows how deranged people can be, both in their unrealistic expectations, how easy they are to be manipulated into doing things that are against their own best interest, having a worse economy, having to pay more for things. Yes, if your greatest partner now considers you a foreign nation, it will be more expensive, it will be more complicated, there will be trouble that you didn't have before when you had a non-stop fluid in and out of goods from one country to the others. All of these things were perfectly logical and reasonable. The only thing that was not reasonable is the idea that you would be making a shitload more money without that membership than you do within. That was the only thing that didn't make any sense whatsoever. And unfortunately, it was said, a lot of people believed it, and now they're paying the consequences. But it is what it is. Just interesting to see how you can guide people like cattle. Repeat something enough and they will believe it. Now they believe that it's the evil EU that is demanding them to have passports that are not expired and have the necessary blank pages for them to get stamped. See you next time, guys. Take care.